Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'll call this meeting to order. Jess Chaba, would you please call the roll for us, please?
Thank you. No members are absent this evening. For the record, I will verbally confirm the following board members are present. Sal Camerata, Bajana Eaton, Chris Johnson, Ruben Moore, Mike Roselli, Jeff Moncrief, Sean McAndrew, Andy Coe, Diane Mayo, Ken George. Thank you.
Great, thank you. The Cary Community Plan will continue to be the guiding document for this board. Our role is to function as citizen advisors to the council who will ultimately make the final decision on all rezoning activities. We recognize that not all rezoning activities or requests are supported unanimously by members of our community, but we strive to balance the impact of increased building density required to support our growth while maintaining the historic charm and character of Cary. The Cary Community Plan was initially adopted in 2017 following a collaborative effort between the citizens and our town government. That collaboration has continued and resulted in a recently updated version of the plan, which was adopted in January of 2025. The chapters of the plan include the live, work, shop, engage, shape, move, enrich, serve, and act. Community plan can be found on the Cary's website. Your citizen opinions based on the community plan document play a very important role in advising our leaders. We encourage our citizens to refer to the plan and provide feedback that is based on the guiding principles of the plan as it relates to the specific rezoning request. While it's a public meeting, this is not a public hearing. There's no opportunity for the public to speak. If you have comments about any of these items, we encourage you to reach out to staff by email or phone. You may also reach out to the board members through email. You may contact council directly through email or during the public speaks out portion of any regularly scheduled council meeting. These meetings may be streamed live on Cary's website and will be posted to YouTube. All past and planning zoning board meetings are available for your review on YouTube. At this point, would someone make a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. So we also will need to approve our meeting minutes. We're going to be approving meeting minutes from a couple of meetings this month. So I guess first, I don't know the rules here, so we'll do them independently. We'll approve someone make a motion for the April 28th meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
And a second. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we also need to approve the May 19th meeting minutes. I'm looking for a motion there as well.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We've got all those orders of business out of the way. We'll move on to our first case. It's 22 REZ 20 Austin Commons PDP. Aaron Puckett, our principal planner, will share the staff's presentation. Following the presentation by the applicant, we'll share their remarks, and then all board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of the staff and the applicant. Ms. Puckett, you may proceed.
Thank you, and good evening, Board. This is a request to rezone approximately 22.74 acres at NC 55 Highway and Petty Farm Road. The site is located on the east side of NC 55, with frontage on both sides of Petty Farm Road. The recently constructed Novel Cary apartment development is located to the north. Alston Town Center is across NC 55 to the west. A Town of Cary water tower is also located directly south of the site. For some additional site history, this assemblage is within the Alston Activity Center concept plan approved by Council in 2006 and is in traffic analysis zone 15 of the Petty Farm neighborhood. This area generally allows office, commercial, and residential uses. For additional locational context, here is the site in the greater Alston area. Here you can see the proximity to the Brickyard development nearby and Parkside Town Commons, which is further to the north. There are a number of multifamily developments nearby within the Alston area. And the recently approved rezoning and annexation for the Alston Yards case is approximately 1.2 miles to the north. Cary's GIS indicates potential stream buffers impacting portions of the subject property. Field determination of such features is required at time of development plan review. The Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan includes a proposed street-side trail along a portion of the NC 55 frontage of the site, south of McCrimmon Parkway. In addition, a portion of the old Carpenter Greenway corridor is planned along Good Hope Church Road. The site has frontage on two thoroughfares, NC 55 and the future extension of McCrimmon Parkway, which would be constructed through the site with this project. The site also fronts Good Hope Church Road. NCDOT will close Good Hope Church Road at its crossing with the CSX Railroad in the future. The site is currently zoned Office Research and Development, or ORD, and it is also in the Mixed Use Overlay District, and as I previously noted, is currently within the Alston Activity Center. The applicant proposes to rezone the site to Mixed Use District with a Preliminary Development Plan, or PDP, and the Mixed Use Overlay District would remain. The Preliminary Development Plan is seen here, and it's divided into 5 pods. Pod 1 is a commercial pod, which may be developed with single-story commercial uses and surface parking. Pods 2 and 3 are mixed-use pods, which may include commercial, office, and residential uses. Buildings may be between 3 and 7 stories, and at least 75% of parking will be in structured parking facilities. Pod 4 includes only residential uses and may also be 3 to 7 stories with at least 75% structured parking. And finally, Pod 5 is an office pod. Some commercial uses are also allowed. The tallest buildings would be permitted in this pod between 3 and 10 stories, and at least half of the parking would be in structures. Some conceptual detail of the potential layout of pods 1 through 4 are shown on the PDP, while Pod 5 lacks any conceptual details regarding the site layout. The PDP also provides a 15-foot streetscape along Petty Farm Road and 30-foot streetscapes along the NC 55, McCrimmon Parkway, and Good Hope Church Road frontages. This is consistent with LDO requirements, except for a portion of the McCrimmon Parkway frontage which abuts the residential pod, where a 50-foot streetscape would otherwise be required by the LDO. 10-foot perimeter buffers are provided to the north and south. As the adjacent properties are also within the mixed-use overlay district, perimeter buffers are not required, so this does exceed the LDO standard. A perimeter buffer is required adjacent to the railroad, as that is outside of the mixed-use overlay district, and in this case, the applicant proposes to meet the LDO required width of 20 feet along the office pod, or Pod 5, and modify the perimeter buffer to a 20-foot buffer along the residential Pod 4, only if parking is provided between the railroad and residential units. Otherwise, a 50-foot type A buffer would apply. One champion tree is proposed to be preserved of the 2 that were identified on the site. And street side trail is offered along all site frontages on NC 55, McCrimmon Parkway, and the short site frontage on Good Hope Church Road. This exceeds the minimum LDO requirement, as Cary's long-range plan shows street side trail only along a portion of the NC 55 frontage. The applicant has also offered traffic improvements at all 7 site access points and will be subject to right-of-way dedication and improvements along all the frontages as applicable. This includes construction of the portion of McCrimmon Parkway through the site. We anticipate the railroad crossing will be grade separated, so details regarding the full extent of the road construction to be completed with this project would be reviewed at time of development plan. We anticipate McCrimmon Parkway to stub to the potential future bridge. The LDO would require a site of this size to provide a complete street network through the site, which connects to adjacent thoroughfares and collectors. Based on the conceptual PDP layout, the road network would be provided approximately as shown here in yellow. The applicant proposes to modify a portion of this network with an access way midway through the site, which would be loaded on one or both sides with parking and may only have sidewalk on one side. This cross-section is also a departure from the Petty Farm Road design, which this ties into. Use intensities across the site include up to 625 residential units, a maximum 30,000 square foot car wash, a minimum of 15,000 and maximum of 25,000 square feet of commercial uses other than the car wash, and a minimum of 50 and maximum of 200,000 square feet of office uses. Within these use categories, the following are permitted. Residential uses may include multifamily or life care community. Office uses may include business or professional office, as well as medical office, as long as it does not exceed 60,000 square feet. The applicant has limited the size of this use, as it typically generates more trips than professional office. Office uses could also permit broadcasting studio or wellness center. Commercial uses include those such as bank, bar, restaurant with drive-throughs prohibited, recreational uses, and a number of retail uses. Car wash is permitted, as previously noted, only within Pod 1. Additional development standards include providing a minimum of 5% of the units as workforce housing units, affordable at or below 80% of the area median income, or AMI, for a period of 30 years, as well as constructing at least 5% of the units at a maximum of 750 heated square feet. This condition could overlap with the affordable housing condition. A commitment to vertical integration of 15,000 square feet of commercial uses, 7,500 each in Pod 2 and Pod 3, and over 20,000 square feet of community gathering space distributed across the site, with at least 500 square feet in Pod 1 and 5,000 in the others. The PDP also commits to screening of parking decks by wrapping them with buildings in Pods 2 and 3, at least partially wrapping decks in Pod 4, and in the office pod, again that's Pod 5, decks may be screened with green walls or artwork. There will be at least 6 EV charging stations accommodating 2 spaces each in Pods 2 through 5, or a total of 48 spaces minimum. An 8-foot sidewalk is provided along all internal streets and travelways, which is an increase to the LDO required 5-foot sidewalk. The applicant has also provided several development standards that would apply specifically to a car wash use on Pod 1. These include fully enclosing all equipment, including vacuums, in the building, limiting drive-through lanes through the building to only 1, including 8 solar panels on the roof, and designing building facades with 85% masonry, which exceeds the community appearance manual requirement of 75%. The PDP also includes a number of proposed modifications, including the ability to clear and grade all streetscapes, a reduced perimeter buffer along the residential pods border with the CSX Railroad, as previously noted. However, this modification, again, is proposed only if parking is located between the multifamily units and railroad. The 50-foot residential streetscape along McCrimmon Parkway is reduced to 30 feet. Internal streetscapes are proposed to be reduced from the 15-foot width required for non-residential uses to 8 feet. These may be largely hardscaped areas with a reduced planting rate. removal of one champion tree of the 2 surveyed on site, with replacement inches to be provided per the LDO, an allowance for decorative retaining walls around stormwater control measures to be 10 feet in height, which is an increase to the LDO limit of 6 feet, but only where they're not visible from public streets or greenways. And as noted previously, some modifications to the LDO requirement for a complete street network through the site. An analysis against the Imagine Cary Community Plan finds that policies in many chapters apply. The project contributes to housing variety by providing multifamily and/or life care units in a mixed-use center and ensuring some smaller units. While the overall concentration of multifamily in this area is high, denser housing types are intended to be largely sited in these mixed-use areas. The commitment to reserve at least 5% of the units, and this could be about 32 units if the maximum yield is achieved, as affordable at 80% of AMI, can support the housing affordability policy. Smaller housing types and affordable units can also support workforce housing needs. The proximity to future office and commercial space in a somewhat walkable environment also supports work policies. However, while a significant amount of office space is offered in Pod 5, without phasing, there's no guarantee the employment uses would be delivered alongside the residential uses, which would more strongly support these work policies. The PDP includes a commitment to a minimum amount of vertically integrated commercial space, which can support shop policies. The proposal contributes to the Greenway network by extending the street side trail beyond the required areas. Enhanced pedestrian infrastructure, internal and external to the site, supports mobility goals of the MOVE chapter. However, the absence of a complete street network connecting major roadways adjacent to the site reduces overall area connectivity, which is a key expectation in mixed-use centers. Taller, higher-density buildings in a designated destination center aligns with policies regarding appropriate locations for the most intense development. Vertical integration into pods and a mix of residential and non-residential uses overall further supports the policy intent of the SHAPE chapter. The internal layout generally places residential uses to the rear and commercial and office to the front, which helps manage transitions to surrounding existing multifamily development. Pod 5's proximity to lower density areas to the east is mitigated somewhat by distance and the railroad separation, but the lack of site design detail for this pod limits the ability to assess how well transitions to adjacent development will occur. The plan includes excess gathering space, which may support open space goals, requests to clear all streetscapes and apply smaller, less dense streetscapes internal to the site to not directly support tree canopy preservation. However, soil cells or structural soils are proposed in these areas to help support tree health. And the provision of at least 48 electric vehicle charging spaces and some solar panels in Pod 1 can at least partially support sustainable energy policies. The site is within the Alston Destination Center. Destination centers emphasize walkable, mixed-use development with structured parking, vertical integration, active public space, and a well-connected street network. There are both positive and challenging aspects of this request in regard to this policy guidance. Commitments to structured parking, except in Pod 1, vertical integration in 2 of the pods, wider pedestrian facilities, buildings pulled up to the street, and large amounts of gathering space do support destination center objectives. The lack of a complete street network and absence of conceptual layout for Pod 5 limit the full alignment with connectivity and transition goals. And the single-story, vehicle-oriented commercial use proposed in Pod 1 is inconsistent with the intent of a destination center. Finally, the absence of phasing provides no assurance of when the office or mixed-use elements would be delivered. A neighborhood meeting was held in December of 2022. 15 members of the public attended and asked questions about the location of the car wash, location of site access points, transportation improvements, including bicycle and pedestrian facilities, and general questions about the rezoning process. Following the neighborhood meeting, staff received follow-up emails from 2 citizens with general questions about the proposal and the rezoning process. A public hearing was held for the rezoning in April of this year. There was one in-person speaker and no written comments. The one speaker lives adjacent to the site and noted concerns about site access and previous issues with NCDOT during development of the site north of the subject property. Council members did have a number of questions and comments, which were summarized in your staff report. Key items included discussion of the wide range of building heights, particularly in Pod 5, and how this may raise questions about transitions. There were both critical and supportive comments in regards to the car wash use, with the main concern being the appearance of the building and ensuring it does not have the appearance of a large storage facility. There were also positive comments regarding the commitment to some units rented at 80% AMI, as well as comments that deeper affordability in terms of the income cap or number of units could be beneficial. Since the public hearing, the applicant has made several changes, including adding a condition for a minimum of 5% of the units to be no larger than 750 heated square feet. They also added conditions addressing the potential car wash use, as noted previously, including limiting the scope to a single drive aisle through the building, enclosing all equipment, installing 8 solar panels, and increasing the required masonry percentage. Commitments were added for all streetscapes to have soil cells on public streets or structural soil on private streets. Conditions were added to Pod 5 to specify that no parking will be located between buildings and NC 55 or McCrimmon Parkway, and that this pod would be served with a primary street. And the PDP was clarified to indicate construction of McCrimmon Parkway to the property line is the responsibility of the developer for this site, with a note to acknowledge that the actual pavement terminus will be determined during development plan review, and it's possible a payment in lieu for a portion of the work would be accepted due to the future grade-separated railroad crossing. Overall, the proposal includes a number of elements that align with the Imagine Cary community plan. As discussed previously, LIV policies are supported by the provision of dense housing and some affordable units, which similarly support work policies, although detail and phasing of the office pod would better support the work chapter. Vertical integration of commercial uses supports the shop chapter, and the overall mix of uses in a strategic location supports shape. Engage policies are addressed through commitments to pedestrian infrastructure, and enrich is partially addressed with EV charging and an overall dense development pattern, although reduced internal streetscapes and grading of streetscapes is proposed. The proposal also offers a number of commitments consistent with the vision for destination centers, as previously discussed. These policies are most directly addressed by pods 2, 3, and 4. On their own, these central pods are closely aligned with destination center guidance. Pod 5 is also generally consistent in its proposal of complementary office uses and a commitment to structured parking, although the lack of detail makes it difficult to deem fully consistent with all plan guidance. The absence of phasing also creates uncertainty about when or if key non-residential components will be delivered. Finally, Pod 1 on its own is inconsistent with the destination center due to the proposed use and form. Overall, the proposal does not fully address all policies, but does largely offer positive commitments that are generally in line with plan guidance. This concludes my presentation. Jason Barron, the applicant's representative, is available to provide the applicant's comments, and then I'm available for any questions.
Great, thank you. Ms.
Thank you.
Puckett.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Jason Barron with Morningstar Law Group. Sorry, I don't know if I'm standing close enough to this. It's great seeing everybody tonight. Happy to be here on behalf of my client, Capital Commercial. They are the proposed developer of this site. Tyler Morris and Jason Stegall are joining me. They're here tonight as well to hear your discussion associated with the case. Like with most cases involving a preliminary development plan, we've been at this for a little while. We've been in the zoning process, but that's the nature of it. And, you know, as it goes through the various submittals and plan reviews, plans have a tendency to get better, and I think this case is an example of that. I'm going to highlight a handful of things. The staff report and Aaron's presentation have been excellent, just kind of giving you the nuts and bolts of where we are as it relates to the submittal itself, the proposal itself, what we're trying to achieve here, and the role of the Cary Community Plan in reviewing that. I did want to provide, and I've mentioned this to Katie before we started. One of the questions we received during the public hearing was from the town council was just, what's the idea? What's the sense of place? What are we trying to achieve here? And oftentimes, especially with these preliminary development plans, you have these like two-dimensional concepts that you don't have an idea of what that 3 dimensions is supposed to look like. So we shared some renderings with the town council. I've got 3 of them that I'm going to distribute to you all so you can kind of take a look and see what we shared with council shortly after the public hearing. And Jess, if I could hand these to you, that'd be great. And while those are going around, I will take some thunder from Ms. Puckett or potentially Mr. Pence and let you know that these are not conditions of the zoning case. I do want to highlight a handful of things associated with these renderings that are conditions of the zoning case. Really what these renderings do is just to help provide, like I said, the vision related to this project, that the 2 dimensions often don't give a good feel for that. And my client has done, I think, a really good job in working with his experts, his engineers, his planners, his architects. They've done a great job in coming up with a plan that, candidly, I've done a lot of work in Alston. I was around briefly when the Alston plan was approved, and I think most of us recognize that the vision that was embodied in the Alston Activity Center concept plan really didn't end up bearing out the way that we thought it would. Most of the development in Alston has been kind of single use, standalone. You have a multifamily deal, you have a commercial deal. Some of that's been changing, but certainly haven't seen a whole lot of structured parking. That's changing a little bit, which is nice to see. It's exciting for me to be able to work on this development in this area in Alston because I think it starts to combine the vast majority of the elements of what Alston was intended to do. And that is to provide that kind of mixed use environment, that walkable environment, much more urban environment than you see in the rest of the town, but certainly in the rest of how Alston has developed to date. And just so you know, the first rendering that you have in that and what I handed out is essentially the front door to the development. That's that pod 2 and pod 3 that you see on the screen. That's that rendered version. And again, this is designed to give scale, but I'm going to walk through a little bit of that with you. The next page is just kind of zoomed out a little bit so you get a full understanding of how all of the uses relate to each other. And then the last page is pod, it really focuses on pod 1, and that's the car wash, and I'm going to talk about that here momentarily. But the commitments that are relevant as it relates to reviewing this rendering and relevant as it relates to your kind of view of the case, in my opinion, are really the commitments around structured parking for pods 2, 3, and 4, which is going to be the core of the development. The kind of that plaza area that you see in the middle of the site, that is a commitment of the case. We have a particular street design that's included in the preliminary development plan that has that angled parking associated with it in that area. Vertically integrated mixed use is a requirement of pods 2 and 3. And so again, that rendered version, you start to see, okay, you've got the structured parking, it's wrapped by buildings. You've got that, kind of that core area. You've got minimum commitments for non-residential uses on the ground floor of those buildings in pods 2 and 3. And so again, this is from scale. You can kind of ignore architecture because that is yet to be determined. That will be determined when they get to the time of building permits. But I just wanted everybody to understand this is the vision for what they're trying to do, and the conditions that are associated with the case, the commitments that have been made in the case are reflective of that vision. And again, those key elements being that pedestrian core, that highly walkable and engaged environment that's being very intentionally curated around vertically integrated mixed use with structured parking that's wrapped, and to really do something that we think is going to be an overall net benefit to the Alston area. A couple of other items. Pod 5 is planned for office. No surprise to anybody in this room. Not a huge demand for office right now. So the reason why there's less detail in the office pod is just a product of, we don't know when that site will develop. We are zoning it for a minimum of 50,000 square feet, up to potentially 200,000 square feet. Don't know exactly where that's going to fall. Don't know if it's going to be medical office or traditional office, but want to create the entitlement so that when that site does move forward, office is the plan in that area. And so I just wanted to let you know the lack of detail associated with the location of buildings is really just reflective of the fact that, being perfectly honest, there's not a market for office right now, but we want to create the opportunity when the market comes back for office. With respect to the car wash, and some of you may know this, I think, Mr. George, you might have been on council when this car wash came before council not too long ago. I guess it was about 4 years ago, maybe at this point, 5 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark. The folks who are going to be building that car wash already own frontage on Highway 55. They bought their site with the intent of building a car wash on 55. That has not happened. And so I would never stand up here and suggest that a car wash is an ideal use in a destination center. However, we think the bulk of this case make it the right case for this area, and what my client has been able to do with the owners of that site that is proposed for the car wash is narrow their frontage and to make it the best car wash we possibly can. And when I say that, that is all of the use associated with the car wash is being conducted inside that building. And so when you see 30,000 square feet, you're thinking, what kind of car wash are you building at 30,000 square feet? Is it a playland? It's actually just a single drive aisle, and we have a condition that makes it clear that that's a single drive aisle. It's just all of the things that you would otherwise see in a car wash are now in a building. And it's a building that has increased masonry requirements. It's a building that has solar panels installed on the top. And so, again, I recognize it's not necessarily an ideal use, but under the circumstances, we've made it as good as we possibly can. The owners of the car wash have been willing to work with my client to narrow their frontage and make it a better fit for the area. But it kind of is what it is, for lack of a better way to put it. But I do want to stress the fact that it's fully enclosed, which I've never seen before, and it does have commitments with respect to solar. Otherwise, I think the conditions of the case that Aaron ran through, that the staff report covers, I think they kind of speak for themselves, and they speak to not just housing affordability and not just one form. It's actually in two different forms. It's in size of the units, but it's also at the 80% AMI that we're typically seeing in multifamily deals. You have a significant commitment to EV charging stations. You've got the solar panels on top of the car wash, and the commitment with respect to doing soil cells in the public streets and structural soils along the private street is something that we work closely with the town's urban forester. I know that there have been some issues that the town has experienced with respect to having upper story trees grow to healthy maturity in public streets that have a more narrow streetscape. And so that commitment to a soil cell is significant. Those are expensive. If you're not familiar with them, those are very, very expensive options. But we understand the town's goal. My client understands the town's goal in the value of trees, especially in those public spaces. And so it was an easy call for my client to make, even though it was an expensive one. But it's consistent with the environment that they're trying to create for the folks who are going to be living here, for the folks who are going to be shopping here, hopefully at some point for the folks who are going to be working here. And so with that, we're here to answer any questions that you all may have. We believe that we're consistent with the recommendations of the Cary Community Plan. We recognize that we don't stripe every single one of them, but we believe that the vast majority of policies that speak to this case speaks right back to them and does so in clear and convincing fashion. And so with that, happy to answer any questions that you all may have, and we would respectfully request you all's finding of consistency. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we let everyone ask questions, I'm just going to go ahead and throw it out there. I don't know what soil cells and structural soil are. So I would love an education. If you can keep it at my level, that'd be even better.
Well, I'll probably be able to one-up you because I'm not sure that I could answer it. I could do one better. Soil cells, do you want to try to take this?
It's just a term I'm not familiar with.
Basically, they're very expensive wells that are designed to ensure that there's appropriate, sufficient amount of soil and the right type of soil to support healthy growing trees.
That's pretty much the high-level summary. Yes,
Okay.
they're more expensive. It's a structured actual component that goes into the soil that maximizes the volume in a certain space. Structural soil is more of a soil rock composite. So what I understand from our urban forester, the soil cells are preferred for long-term tree health, and that's also the reason they're more expensive and more difficult to install. So it's a balancing act.
Thank you. All right. I don't know if anyone else had that question, but,
And I'm obviously not a first driver.
well, good. I think maybe we'll just start here with Mike, and we'll run that way and then run down the other end.
Ms. Puckett, could you give us just a little bit more background on the activity center concept plan? So this plan was approved in 2006. It was nearly 20 years ago.
Yes.
But it's still in effect. Like, this is supposed to adhere to the policies in that plan.
So yes, it is still in effect, and our activity center concept plans or mixed-use sketch plans, those were sort of what came before what we see today, which is typically those MXD rezonings within a mixed-use overlay. So in the past, you had these activity center concept plans. Alston is the largest one in Cary, and probably the most well-known one. So it set very specific design standards as well as certain uses and caps on those uses that could go within each of those traffic analysis zones. And what we're seeing, because to your point, that plan is almost 20 years old, you all have probably even seen we're getting more requests in recent years to rezone portions of Alston to MXD with a preliminary development plan, because those allotments that are left for these sites, certain caps on the amount of commercial or residential units that can be provided, developers can't make them work. So that's essentially what we're seeing here. The cap on multifamily in this traffic analysis zone 15 would be well below what they're requesting, the maximum square footage of the commercial and the office as well. So they would need to rezone in order to get those allocations for those uses.
So this would kind of remove it from the requirements of that plan.
Correct. It's removing it and setting its own requirements.
What about for some of the character elements that may make sure it's kind of cohesive with the other areas kind of in Alston? So I noticed in the plan, there's gateway and artwork framework, and I think there's even a gateway at the intersection of McCrimmon and 55 was identified on the plan. Does that remove that as well?
I believe that would still apply in terms of, I think the signage is what you're getting at, sort of that required Alston signage. I believe that would still apply because it would apply to that roadway network. There aren't explicitly sign modifications being proposed with this proposal.
Okay. That's all I got right now.
Chris?
How far is the nearest existing car wash from this location? Do we know that? Just
That's
curious.
a great question. I don't actually have that in front of me. I'm not sure. No. We can look that up and circle back.
I guess, and maybe you covered this, but is there a reason why the commercial area has to be the same, roughly the same size as one car wash? I know it's a little bit more, but is there a reason why they couldn't be more commercial, more pod one? Just curious.
Are you asking if pod 1 could be larger or if there's
Yeah.
commercial elsewhere
Yeah.
in the development?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pod 1, I mean, this is what the applicant has proposed, and they can speak further to that, why a 30,000 square foot car wash on this size site. That's simply what they're asking for here. I'm assuming that's the desire of the property owner. There is additional commercial uses and minimum square footage is required outside of the car wash use. So regardless of whether that car wash gets built or at what size, they still do have the commitment to a minimum of 7,500 square feet of commercial in each of pods 2 and 3 that have to be vertically integrated into that residential building. So there will be commercial elsewhere on site, assuming that they build the mixed-use pods in the center of the site.
Okay. So did you say 7,500 in each of 2 and 3?
Right, so 15,000 will be required as a minimum, assuming they build out pods 2 and 3.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Lashana?
I have one quick one. Since it's kind of like a destination center with a lot of uses, is bus route something that's considered there as a stop?
So Go Cary does not currently have a route that goes, that serves this area currently. I believe that Go Triangle does have a route in this area. Our transit staff will evaluate a development plan, whether a future stop is needed here. I believe the applicant does have a note on their PDP to essentially say that they'll work with Cary staff at time of development plan if it's deemed that a stop is needed.
That was kind of my question, possibility.
Sal, do you have any questions?
Yeah. On the rendering here, with this grand entrance, I'm assuming this is like a right in and right out?
I'm going to look to my colleague in transportation. Yes, it is right in, right out.
Would there be any issues with this being so close to McCrimmon and the signalized corner there?
So that's something that'll be reviewed specifically at time of development plan. The access points as shown in front of you on the preliminary development plan are somewhat conceptual. However, our transportation staff do review these preliminary development plans to sort of make sure that those access locations do make sense and meet those separations, but that'll be specifically reviewed at time of development plan.
And one other question, as it relates to the office in the future, could, as it would be now zoned, could retail be placed on the first floor of the office buildings?
So that is what they're proposing. The majority of that Pod 5, because of the large square footages they've shown there, would be office, but they have allowed the possibility of retail to go there. You're asking about the existing zoning. That's currently zoned ORD, so office would be supported today, but not at this height.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
The architectural requirements that it currently exists now, how many of those get transferred over with this? And, what are we losing, with that adherence to those guidelines? Because it doesn't seem that the conditions would match. So that's what I'm asking.
Sure. So it would still need to meet the requirements of our community appearance manual, and even sites developing within Alston do have to meet those requirements as well. But to, I think, the other part of your question, they are essentially removing and setting their own design standards for this assemblage instead of some of the design standards and things of the Alston Center. But those things speak more to street frontage, those types of things. Architecturals aren't necessarily specifically addressed in Alston. That's more of a community appearance manual item, and that would still apply.
Okay. The next is with the car wash, taking a look again, just down the street is, a storage unit, and the rendering, I know it's not exact and we're not holding them to it, but I also see the buffer, the 30-foot buffer is very sparse. Is there with that, the whole idea, there's the concern of having the car wash. There already are trees, and they're also talking about fully grading it away. Yes, they're putting in the soil cells, but it's one of those, it seems counterintuitive to what they're doing and not in line with, the concerns that, both the council had rendered with this car wash and trying to get it moved forward. It just seems very Spartan with the buffering. Am I missing something with that?
No, that's a correct observation. And our commercial streetscape planting rate is relatively sparse compared to a residential streetscape. And that's somewhat intentional because most commercial development wants that visibility. But you're correct, that's a little bit at odds perhaps with the appearance concerns that were raised previously.
Are there any concerns from the town with that water tower with phase area 5 being right there with the height? Are there any concerns in the future with that water tower being in that little corner that would impact anything infrastructure-wise for the town?
I am not aware of that. The water tower site in relation to this site was looked at by our DRC when this first came in, by our utilities staff. I'm not aware of any issues that were raised in regards to the water tower. I'm not aware of any issues.
All right, those are the questions I have.
Okay. I think most of the questions that I had have been answered. The champion tree, though, it sounds like that one of the two is not going to be saved. Is that just because of the position, or where it's physically located?
Yes, so the other tree is a bit more centrally located and quite close to NC 55. So it is possible, well, probable, based on their sort of conceptual layout here, that that tree would be heavily impacted. So you'll notice that the one that's being preserved is sort of further removed in a buffer area adjacent to the railroad.
Okay. And then I know this was brought up already, but I guess just to get a little bit more clarity, as you mentioned about the office space, that may not come back for some time. What is a plan B if you decided to do something different?
And so I'll start and then I'll let the applicant finish. So the way that the zoning conditions are written, if this was rezoned, including that pod 5, it would only allow office and commercial uses. So some small amount of commercial uses could go there if this rezoning is approved. But really, office, a small amount of commercial, and structured parking would be what's
Correct.
the requirement
Right.
be if this is approved.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Plan B at that point would have to go through a rezoning. It would have to come back through this process.
You'd be
That's
coming
exactly
back.
right. Yep.
All right, thank you. That's all.
Yeah, Diane?
No questions, thanks.
Ken?
Yeah, so the adding of the extra street side trail to the north, because I noticed on the drawing, of course, and it was mentioned, is it going, are they continuing it to the north? And if they continue it to the north, as you're planning, if it passes, would the town then go look again, would our staff look again at whether they would want that to continue up 55 so it wouldn't be a street side trail to nowhere? There's got to be a purpose in them putting that up there instead of stopping in that little part that was planned.
Sure. So, we do rely on development to sort of extend those facilities. So as far as I'm aware, there's not a funded plan for the town to install additional street side trail. I'll look to my colleague in transportation. Do you have anything to add about the future street side?
I'll just add that the recommendation for a street side trail along 55 is also partly based on the upcoming Cary bike plan to be able to accommodate bicycles and pedestrians safely. So we're constantly looking at future opportunities. So when that happens, it'll be extended.
So this does fit with what the town would envision. That's what I was hoping.
It
would
does.
fit with what the town, okay, because the walkability and the PED, the bike and PED would be great. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Just curious, who knows how tall the water tower is here?
I believe it's 178 feet, so it's
Okay.
about 12 plus or minus stories.
Okay, that answers that question. That was my second question that you anticipated. And where are we anticipating that crossing the road by foot or by bicycle would happen to get to the upside? Is it would be at the McCrimmon extension? What is that been thought through? I should have got it about transportation was up there because we got to know how they're going to get across to walk from those apartments to across to the other Austin.
So you're saying essentially like from pod 3 to pod 5? How would one
No,
get
to go
across?
go across 55 a little further up where where the other Austin commercial.
To the shopping center?
Yeah, to the shopping center, yeah.
And actually, I apologize, Preetham,
I
I'm
should-
not sure where the closest crosswalk is, so I'm going to see if we can get some context.
Yeah, the nearest crosswalk would be at Meckerman Parkway and 55. Otherwise, the next signal to the north is going to be at Mahal Avenue and 55.
Further up. Okay, well, so this would, but that's in our walkability plan, clearly, to get to the shopping centers.
Yeah, we tried to make those crossings at signalized intersections because that would be the only safer, relatively safe location for pedestrians to cross. And a mid-block in this area would be really challenging.
Yeah, or a above-grade crossing would be very expensive, too. So I was just wondering what there was a plan. Okay, that's helpful. Let me see the next one. No, that's good for our transportation. I do understand, I don't know where the next closest car wash is, but it does seem like in fitting the community plan and fitting all this, if we've gone up so much on the number of cars and the number of people and the number of in and outs here, it seems to me to be a perfect place. All those apartments around that have a car wash is to be close to all the apartments. And at some point, you have to provide services. And I certainly would prefer it to be behind a wall than out in the open. So I think of places, if there's going to be a car wash, that'd be great. And I hope that there's no orange that shows through those windows like it does at the mini stores right down the road. But I think it fits, in general, it fits with the community plan to try to make it cohesive and make it look better. I think it's with the appearance manual, adding the extra amount of masonry. I like that. So that's my comment. That's it.
Okay. I had a couple of clarifying questions. And when I read through the report, it obviously it's a long process. There's some iterations. At one point, it looked like there's going to be a filling station with 12 pumps and 525 units versus this car wash and 625. I mean, insofar as specifically in the client's, statement, it was still referencing the 12 fuel, the fuel pumps, gas stations, car wash. Just, I guess at the end of the day, what I'm trying to understand is, why did we go from 525 to 625? And then as far as the car wash is concerned, I agree that it makes a lot of sense with all those units there. But I was not understanding, like, someone else owns the property and they're not I was just confused by the explanation as to why we're so set on a car wash. And I mean, it sounded like we were hamstrung. Like, if you don't do it, I don't know. I just was trying to understand the why we're so nailed down on a car wash.
Let me speak to the first part of your question, then the applicant may need to give more context on the why of the car wash. In terms of the question about this started as 12 fuel pumps, it went to a larger car wash. So you're correct. The first iteration of the PDP, which again was 2+ years ago, the traffic study was also originally scoped for that 12 fueling pump gas station. At some point, the fueling pumps fell off, I think, in order to do this larger format car wash where everything is internal. In terms of the actual trip generation, we did verify with our colleagues in transportation that that would still be at or even under what was scoped initially for the 12 fueling pumps. Okay. So that was a change that was allowable within what had already been scoped for the traffic study. But I'll let Mr. Barron speak to the use question.
Yeah, again, I did a poor job of explaining it. I apologize for that, Mr. Moncrief. The reality is the folks who are going to develop the car wash, they already own their property. They have made it clear that they're going to own their property for time immemorial. They own a larger portion of the frontage than we're showing on this plan. We've condensed their frontage slightly in order to accommodate this plan. And so really it's just a product of trying to, my client, work with those folks to come up with a better plan to make the car wash something that is going to be an asset to the area. Anecdotally, I'll tell you, there was a question about where the nearest car wash is. I don't know specifically, but I do know I have a law partner of mine who lives in this area who's really excited about a car wash because they don't have one nearby. I don't know what that means, but he's told me that. And so I think the answer is those folks already own the site. And the best thing my client felt like they could do under the circumstances, recognizing they can't require anybody to not just sit on their property, was to try to work a deal with them where we just made it the best car wash we could, and then we built some pretty awesome stuff next to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Sure, go ahead.
I was looking at the Cary GIS map and pulled up the actual overlay district for the Alston area. And it looked like there was a rezoning in 2014. It was town initiated, 14 REZ 18, to determine whether or not land uses and densities allowed in the zoning district are appropriate for the site. And I think they removed some uses, added some uses.
And that was likely an amendment to the Alston plan.
Correct,
If
right.
that was the town initiated zoning, yes.
And I guess, so that was 10 years ago. Since then, is this basically as far as anything has kind of happened on this site?
Yeah, to my awareness, yes. And I believe what we're seeing more often in the last few years is rather than amending the Alston plan, we're seeing these requests for mixed-use district as sort of the way to pop sites out of the Alston plan and give them their own set of standards.
And my other question was related to the 10 stories. I mean, what's the, just trying to understand, we've got a use over there proposed that's not very high in demand right now. Why are we modifying to go to 10 stories on something that, just what's the purpose of getting to 10 stories versus, I think there were 7 that were already approved? What do we get with 3 stories in something that's in low demand.
Right, and I'll let the applicant speak to that. The 3 to 10 range was not a requirement or suggestion by staff. I think that's what they've asked to allow that flexibility. But I'll
Okay.
let the applicant speak to that.
Yeah, it's really trying to position the site as strong of an office site as we possibly can, recognizing that office is not strong right now. And in looking at how that site could lay out with the structured parking that's required for it, a 10-story, 20,000 square foot floor plate is something that is at least feasible, but we just don't know. So it's really just around making it flexible, making it attractive for when the office market returns.
Okay, that makes sense. I believe those were my key questions. Anyone else have any follow-up before we?
You know, so whether or not, you know, people pay Google to show where the car washes are. Across 540, way down Carpenter Fire Station, there's one. In fact, it's at Arlington and Amberley near there, so it's a long ways away. And the other way, it's near Morrisville Community Park. It's the closest to, and it looks like it's quite a ways. There's nothing on 55 anywhere close to people going to and from work. I think there's also one near Green Level West Road, so it's a ways away. So there's nothing over on 55 at all. Maybe that's why they bought it and wanted to put a car wash there years ago.
Thank you for checking that.
Gotcha. Well, if there aren't any additional questions, I guess we've got a motion before us here for this case, and if or we don't have a motion yet, we're looking for a motion in reference to case number 22 REZ 20. If anyone's so inclined, I would welcome a motion. Go ahead. Either you get.
I move that the board find case number 22 REZ 20 as consistent with the comprehensive plan and all other applicable plans for the reasons set forth in the staff report presentation and just by our discussion by the P&Z board.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second, so I think that allows for some discussion. Ken, you just give some basis for your motion?
I think we have a need for apartments, and when you can put them on Highway 55 between a railroad track and Highway 55, that's where people want them. I think it keeps the traffic off the neighborhood streets, and I think this is what, and height's good, density's good. It's a great place. It's not infringing on anybody's neighborhood. They're next to other apartments. I think it's an ideal place.
Yep. Diane, any additional
Structured
comments?
parking too, I love.
Yeah, just, I know that traffic concerns often come up, but I think having office space, if it is occupied in the future, or having these mixed uses kind of can help reduce the traffic load as well. I think that.
Sure. Great. Andy, any other?
Yeah, the same. I mean, I appreciate the applicant recognizing that it's not the perfect proposal, but it does check all the boxes for the most part, so I agree.
Sean?
No additional comments.
Mike?
I think the original Alston plan was well-intended, but I think after 10 years and trying to modify it, and then another 10 years and just no bites, I think it's time to do something different.
Sure. Chris?
No additional comments?
Have additional.
Sal? So, and I agree with all the comments that have been made. I think one thing that my brain sometimes is very, very literal, and so when I'm being told that things are definitively inconsistent with the plan and being asked for them to be deemed consistent, I struggle a little bit with that, but it's absolutely directionally correct. You know, I'm not allowed to vote almost consistent, so I don't know exactly where I'm going to go with it. But the point is regardless, I agree that it's exactly what we need in that location. This type of thing. There's a lot of variability and a lot of unknowns because you're trying to develop a very large piece, and so that's another thing that makes it a little bit hard. I didn't ask this question earlier, but when we're looking at the 5% AMI, I was curious, like, as you're phasing this. Is that something that's got to be held consistent at each development pod at the time they're developed? How do you calculate some of those things where we're committing to certain amounts of something based on the size of the development?
So I believe the way they have it written in the condition, and Jason can correct me if I'm wrong, they do have it on a per pod or per phase basis to avoid kicking the can. That's okay.
Okay. Does anyone else have any additional comments? If not, then I guess we'll call for the vote. Would all those in favor of motion 22 REZ 20s being consistent with the plan, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's going to be this guy. I'm sorry. I do find it to be a really good plan, but I think there's some additional discussion that we'll be benefit from as we go through the final approval process. But thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I guess that moves us on to the next case, which is 24 REZ 08 Yates Store Road rezoning. Our second case on the agenda is that I just stated. Ms. Smith, Rachel Smith, our principal planner, will share our presentation. After that, the applicant will share their remarks. All board members will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff and the applicant. Ms. Smith, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good evening, Board. This is a rezoning request for approximately 48.79 acres located on the Chatham and Wake County line at the western edge of Cary. The property is generally located north of Weldon Ridge Boulevard and at the southwest and southeast quadrants of the intersection of Yates Store Road and New Hope Church Road. A concurrent annexation petition has been submitted. The site is surrounded by existing Cary subdivisions. To the west, south, and east is the Weldon Ridge Planned Development, or PDD, which includes the Cary Diavolo at New Hope Disc Golf Course Park, a future school site, the Mother Teresa Catholic Church, and the Grove at Weldon Ridge, which is a townhome neighborhood. To the northeast is the Renhurst neighborhood, and to the north is the peninsula at Amberley, which is part of the Amberley PDD. To the west of the disc golf park is the American Tobacco Trail. According to Cary's GIS data, portions of the site may be impacted by stream buffers. Field determination of such features will occur at the time of development plan review. According to the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Master Plan, no greenway is planned within or directly next to the site. A street side trail and trailhead exist on the north side of New Hope Church Road. Potential bike and pedestrian connections from the disc golf park to the development will be evaluated during development plan review to assess opportunities and challenges. Adjacent to the site, New Hope Church Road is a 2-lane undivided thoroughfare, and Yates Store Road is a 4-lane thoroughfare with landscaped median. The existing zoning is Chatham County Residential 1 and Cary Residential 40 on the Wake County side of the assemblage. A portion of the property on the east side of Yates Store Road is zoned Cary General Commercial, where there is a vacant commercial building. The proposed zoning is Residential 8 conditional use for detached dwellings and Transitional Residential conditional use for townhomes. The applicant has provided a concept plan that illustrates many of the zoning conditions, including the proposed use and maximum units for each area. There are 2 R8 CU areas for detached dwellings on 10,000 square foot minimum lots, with a maximum of 57 homes on the western area and 10 homes on the eastern area. The TRCU area, shown in pink, is for a maximum of 25 townhouses. The concept plan also illustrates the locations of streetscapes, buffers, community gathering areas, and access points. Other zoning conditions include a community gathering area of 12,400 square feet, which exceeds the LDO minimum of 5,000 square feet for a development of this size, with a pick list of amenities for the 2 locations. Minimum lot sizes shall be calculated outside of stream buffer areas. Some required perimeter buffers will be on common open space lots. The applicant will also certify they have offered historic materials for salvage if demolition permits are sought. The applicant has also committed to providing additional buffer adjacent to the Cary Disc Golf Park. This commitment and the numerous transportation improvements to meet or exceed LDO requirements in terms of connectivity, traffic calming, access management, and pedestrian and roadway improvements are best understood visually. The 30-foot Type A buffer along the western edge of the site adjacent to the disc golf park is wider and denser than the 20-foot Type B buffer required by the LDO. As shown in pink, the applicant is committing to build a street side trail along the west side of Yates Store Road, where only a 5-foot sidewalk is required along the site's frontage. They've also committed to extending the street side trail north to the Yates Store Road and New Hope Church Road intersection beyond the rezoning area, an off-site improvement that adds about 900 feet of new trail and connects the existing street-side trail network on the north side of New Hope Church Road via the pedestrian crosswalk at the intersection. To provide connectivity, a new access point will be built from Yates Store Road to serve the 10 homes proposed on the east side of Yates Store Road. This access point and the existing roadway stubs will connect via a roundabout, helping to slow traffic. During construction, access will be limited to Yates Store Road, with barriers on existing roads to help reduce construction impacts. Access management will occur via direct driveway restrictions to Weldon Ridge Boulevard. Pedestrian improvements include the previously mentioned street-side trail on the west side of Yates Store Road, as well as an off-site commitment to install a high-vis crosswalk at the eastern leg of the Yates and New Hope Church Road intersection. Finally, as described in more detail in the staff report, the applicant will construct numerous roadway improvements, including frontage widening, adding turn lanes, striping, and improvements at intersections and site access points. Staff has evaluated the rezoning against the Imagine Cary community plan. First, we note the western portion of the site is located within the Chatham-Cary Joint Land Use Plan low-density residential sub-area, which recommends densities not to exceed 2 dwelling units per acre. This proposal has a maximum density of 1.74 dwellings per acre in the portion of the site in Chatham County. This is consistent with the joint plan. The site spans 2 future growth framework designations: suburban neighborhood on the west side of Yates Store Road and traditional neighborhood on the east. Suburban neighborhoods primarily support detached homes with limited townhouses in appropriate locations. The proposed townhouse area may align with this, given its defined location, limited number, and added community gathering space. Detached homes are supported in the traditional neighborhood area. When looking at the Live chapter, we note the proposal will add additional housing stock to Western Cary and the option to live in either a townhouse or a detached dwelling. The Shape chapter emphasizes transitions through use mix, design, and buffers. The proposed density is under 2 units per acre and is similar to nearby developments, though with somewhat smaller lots. Clustering of development is likely to offset the lot sizes, given the stream buffer and additional community gathering space. Enhanced buffers, such as the wider, denser buffer along the Cary Disc Golf Park and perimeter buffers on common lots, may also improve transitions. Wider streetscape and perimeter buffers in other targeted areas may further support goals in the Shape and Engage chapters. Cary's 2010 Historic Preservation Master Plan, which is part of the Imagine Cary Community Plan, supports preserving historic resources. 2 surveyed sites are on the property: the Yates Grocery and Farm Supply on Yates Store Road and the Yates House on New Hope Church Road, each with multiple structures. Neither is listed on the National Register of Historic Places or designated as a Cary local historic landmark, though the State Historic Preservation Office has deemed the Yates Grocery and Farm Supply eligible for the National Register. Information from Capital Area Preservation is included in the staff report. A zoning condition has been offered to certify that historic material salvage will be pursued before any future demolition. This condition does not require demolition or prevent preservation efforts. Salvage may offer some benefits in terms of the reuse of building materials. When looking at the Move chapter, we note policies to ensure the safety and design for all users. On the east side of Yates Store Road, the applicant will build a new connection to Yates Store Road, as well as a roundabout to provide connectivity and slow traffic, and construction traffic will use Yates Store Road to minimize impacts to the existing neighborhoods. The driveway restrictions on Weldon Ridge Boulevard will also have access management benefits. The addition of approximately 900 feet of street-side trail on the west side of Yates Store Road will connect residents to the existing street-side trail network on the north side of New Hope Church Road, and the high-vis pedestrian crossing at the Yates and New Hope Church Road intersection will enhance multimodal safety. The commitments to frontage and access point improvements address land use context. Though the staff report does describe additional safety improvements, staff recommended to the applicant to better meet the intent of this chapter. When looking at the enriched chapter, policies may be partially met by the proposal, as the additional gathering space may help to encourage open space preservation. The wider buffer adjacent to the Cary Disc Golf Park site may also help to preserve open space and tree canopy. A neighborhood meeting was held on June 5th of 2024. 30 nearby residents participated. Questions and concerns included the intended scope of the project, LDO requirements, school capacity, and concerns regarding traffic, speeding, pedestrian safety, and construction and connectivity impacts. At the March 13th public hearing, there were 3 written comments and 4 speakers. Some were in support of the rezoning, while others raised concerns about property preservation, infrastructure costs, and the impacts on nearby property values. Key issues included traffic, the number of proposed dwellings, and the private roads maintained by the Grove at Weldon Ridge HOA connecting to public streets. The council discussion focused on traffic impacts and roadway design, including the feasibility of a new connection to Yates Store Road and strategies to discourage cut-through traffic. Questions were raised about pedestrian infrastructure gaps, the proposed densities and lot sizes in comparison to nearby developments, and joint land use plan guidance. Other topics included historic preservation, affordable housing opportunities, buffer widths, and access limitations on collector roads. The applicant made a number of changes since the public hearing. They increased the required buffer between the Cary Disc Golf Course and the site by 10 feet and upgraded it from a Type B to a Type A. They committed to building a new access point to the development east of Yates Store Road and to connecting this new access point to the existing roadway stubs via a roundabout. They expanded the commitment to build a street-side trail along the west side of Yates Store Road, extending it along the subject site, along an off-site parcel, and via existing right-of-way north to the New Hope Church Road intersection. They added details that the pedestrian crossing on the eastern leg of the intersection of Yates Store Road and New Hope Church Road will be a high visibility crossing. And there were minor technical edits to the zoning conditions and the concept plan. Staff offers the following observations on the Imagine Cary Community Plan. Relevant policies from the Live, Shape, Engage, Move, and Enrich chapters, as well as the Chatham-Cary Joint Land Use Plan, apply. The proposed use and density of 1.74 units per acre on the Chatham side is consistent with the Joint Land Use Plan. Under Live, the proposal offers a mix of detached homes and townhouses. For Shape, transitions are provided through density, use, and enhanced buffers in some areas. Engage is supported by a new street-side trail along Yates Store Road that expands the pedestrian network. For historic preservation, the applicant has committed to salvage if demolition occurs, but stronger preservation efforts would better support the historic preservation master plan. For Move, commitments include a new access to Yates Store Road, traffic calming, and pedestrian improvements. These align with safety and connectivity goals, though additional staff recommended improvements are not being included. The Enrich chapter is supported by new gathering space, preserved buffer areas, and wider buffers along the Cary Disc Golf Park, helping promote open space and tree canopy retention. This concludes my presentation. Letitia Shapiro, the applicant's representative, is available to provide comments, and following her comments, I'm available to answer your questions.
Great, thank you, Ms. Smith.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Letitia Shapiro, Morningstar Law Group, here on behalf of the applicant Tucker Development. Here with me this evening is James Tucker of Tucker Development, Ed Tang of Withers Ravenel, who has been involved in design of the site, and Travis Fluitt, who has helped the applicant team with regard to traffic. I want to thank staff. I want to take the time to thank staff for all of the hard work that went into getting us here tonight, and Rachel did a wonderful job of presenting the details of the case. So I would just like to highlight a few points. As mentioned, the case is supported by policies within the Live, Shape, Engage, Move, and Enrich chapters of the Cary Community Plan, and is also keeping with the Chatham-Cary Joint Land Use Plan. With respect to transitions, as you see, this is a split rezoning, and the reason for that split rezoning is because we wanted to be very mindful of the transitions that were supported in the Cary Community Plan and in the Chatham-Cary Land Use Plan. So the split zoning allows us to develop the townhomes directly on the east side, or the west side of Yates Store Road, across from the Grove at Weldon Ridge townhomes, and then transition into single family as you move towards Chatham County. And then on the east side of Yates Store Road, to the north of the Grove at Weldon Ridge townhomes, there's that, again, that transition into single family adjacent to the single family of the existing Renhurst neighborhood. With respect to transportation, infrastructure, and safety, in addition to the LDO required frontage improvements, the applicant has offered on and off-site pedestrian and bicycle improvements that include the installation of the high visibility crosswalk, street side trail, and other improvements to eliminate sidewalk gaps. And with regard to engagement with neighbors, in addition to the neighborhood meeting before and after the public hearing, we have engaged in conversations with the neighbors from the Weldon Ridge Townhomes HOA and their attorney related to their specific concerns, which were construction traffic and the connection to Flybridge Drive, which is a private street. The applicant has offered conditions related to construction traffic management and committed to construction of a roundabout at the connection of Flybridge Drive with the sign noting that it is a private street, along with that right-in, right-out access off Yates Store Road. And both of these improvements may help slow and deter cut-through traffic, reducing the likelihood of undesirable impacts on the existing private street. And with regard to traffic, the project does not meet the threshold requirement for a traffic study. However, the applicant did conduct a traffic analysis, and that report was provided to the town as well as the neighbors who attended the neighborhood meeting. So I have lived in West Cary in this area for nearly 17 years. So this is my stomping ground. A few of those years, Yates Store Road was essentially my backyard. And I have raised 3 children who moved through Mills Park Elementary and Middle Schools and Panther Creek High School. They're all either done with college, in college, and getting ready to go. And this project offers that single family and townhome option that will allow other families to be able to, you know, enjoy Cary and just have the wonderful experience that our family had. So as you can imagine, I'm extremely excited to present this to you tonight, and we appreciate your time and look forward to your feedback, and would ultimately appreciate your recommendation for consistency. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you have any other comments, Rachel, or you're just getting ready for the questions? We'll start with Sean, then if you have any questions on this one.
What were the staff improvements for the traffic that were not included? That were not offered as conditions?
So at the intersection of Yates Store and New Hope Church Road, where it extends to Rolling Springs Drive, so generally right here, staff recommended a pedestrian hybrid beacon or PHP facility or a signalized traffic signal.
Is that the only one that was not included?
Those are the 2 items that were not included. The high-vis crosswalk is acceptable, but additional facilities would be appreciated for safety.
Right. Thank you.
Andy?
She just asked the question I was going to ask. Is that basically includes the recommendations for under the move?
Correct. It's in the move section of the staff
Okay,
report.
same. Okay, that's all. Thanks.
Diane?
I have a question about the historic nature with the store and the house. I just want to understand, it says it's on the study list for National Register of Historic Places. So how does the rezoning impact, does that allow the demolition of it before that study is complete, or how does that work?
So those are excellent questions. So the National Register of Historic Places is a federal listing of sites and districts that are recognized at the national level. Properties are not required to be listed on that. The study list, it determines eligibility. So these properties have been surveyed by a 2020 survey that was done mainly because Section 106 of federal law requires anytime there's federal transportation funding involved with either a street project, a DOT project, et cetera, that there be a survey and a study of all historic properties in the area. So the Yates Grocery and Farm Supply was found to be eligible for listing. So that's something that the property owner could pursue. There are some benefits to that program that become available. It's definitely a good recognition program. There are some benefits at the federal level as well.
I guess my question is, how does the rezoning, do they have that opportunity to demolish it regardless if we go forward with rezoning, or is that impacted by this decision?
There is no protection precluding demolition of those properties at this time.
Okay, so it's not impacted by the rezoning, basically.
Now, if they're gone, they wouldn't be able to be listed on the National Register.
Right, thank you.
Ken?
The Flybridge Drive, the neighbors considered, so that's that is a private street?
Correct, it is. It's
Okay.
maintained by the HOA.
And, okay, which I think we're getting hopefully fewer of those, but the connection, if I looked at the drawing, right, the traffic calming was like a circle on that street, and then the right in, right out, they said precluded the passing through, the need to pass through the neighborhood. Did I understand that correctly? It was kind of...
Well, if one wants to take the most direct route to the 10 homes on the east side of Yates Store Road, going in and off of Yates Store Road would be the most direct route.
Okay, that's good, thank you. That's all.
Mike, you have any questions?
No questions.
Chris?
My question was already answered.
Okay. Shoshana?
So I just maybe want a clarification. So if we're trying to get to the homes that are on the southern part, past the townhomes along the Weldon Ridge Boulevard, we can't use Weldon Ridge Boulevard to get to them, or we can? Like the homes that would be located in that bottom quadrant, single family, how?
Yes. So the eastern connection that's shown on the screen here in kind of a brown color would only provide connectivity to those 10 homes on the east side. The pods on the west side of Yates Store Road would take Weldon Ridge Boulevard.
Okay, and that's fine. Okay. And then do we have any kind of retention pond or any kind of concern because of where we have a stream going through, right? A watershed, or I'm trying to read what's, the blue. Is that just a stream or a watershed setbacks there?
So a 100-foot stream buffer will be required. Now there will be field investigation of the exact extent at the time of development plan review, but that will be a subject regulated waterway.
Okay. These are my two concerns.
Yeah, to piggyback on her question, so can you cross the stream buffer with a street, or you don't know that at this point?
So all those connections will be determined at the time of development plan.
Okay. And although not noted, I'm assuming there's going to be connectivity through the townhouse community into the single unit detached homes.
So exact connectivity will be determined at the time of development plan. The connections to the adjoining properties are generally shown by the gray. I would presume that there will be street connectivity between the two sites, given the extent. My friend from transportation may perhaps want to speak to that.
Yeah, there will be connectivity between the single-family pods and the townhome pods.
Okay. That's all my questions.
Okay. I don't think I have any additional questions. So if there's willingness to put forth a motion, we have the 24 REZ 08 before us. Would welcome a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to find consistent with the comprehensive plan that case number 24-REZ-08 is consistent in all other applicable plans for the reasons set forth in the staff report, presentation, and discussion by the Planning and Zoning Board.
Second.
Great. Do you have any specific things you want to offer supporting that, or?
Well, just a, kind of, overview of all the things that were already laid out, the live, the shape, engage, move, and enrich chapters are consistent.
Yep. Sean, anything?
No, again, I think comprehensive and, working with, the two different counties, consistency to keep the neighborhoods, across and continue to develop. It's all good.
Diane, anything?
No, thanks.
Anyone this way? So it would be cool, I know it's not an obligation, but if there was a clubhouse, or you could turn the store into something that was like a little community gathering space or something along those lines, that would be neat, but it obviously probably doesn't make a lot of fiscal sense. So I guess we would take a vote at this point. All those in favor of 24-REZ-08, please state aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Let me move us along here. We've got a couple of more items of new and old business. So we have Planning and Zoning Board Annual Report, and our Assistant Planning Director, Ms. Katie Dry, is going to give us that report.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Each year, all boards and commissions prepare annual reports documenting their activities during the year. This is a chance to look back at work accomplishments. All of these reports will be submitted to the clerk's office upon approval by the board and then submitted to town council. So this year, the Planning and Zoning Board reviewed and provided recommendations on a total of 18 rezoning requests, 2 land development ordinance amendments, and 2 amendments to the comprehensive plan. Some of the notable cases that you saw included the South Hills redevelopment project rezoning, the updated rules for accessory dwelling units in Cary, as well as your recommendation on the Imagine Cary community plan update. With that, that concludes my summary, and happy to answer any questions or just any discussion that you have amongst yourself.
Anyone have anything to discuss? No? You guys did all the work. We just got to sit here and say yes or no. So you guys did all the work. We appreciate it. We need a motion, though, to approve the annual report, if someone would provide that.
So moved.
All right, Chris, move second.
Second.
All righty. All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and the only thing I really get to do is call the meeting adjourned, so
Thank you.
thank you. Have a good one.
Appreciate it.